Hello, hip hip hooray. It is a cult-free day. I am so thrilled to be able to say that. Welcome. I'm Natalie Webster, and this is Scientology Life After a Cult, where I talk about growing up in Scientology, being in the Sea Organization, leaving with 3 generations of my family, who you will catch on this channel, popping in here and there as well. And I will be sharing the stories of other people who've also left Scientology coming up. I've been talking to some people. People are talking. There's lots of talking. I just want them to come talk with me now. And I think it's going to be really interesting. I talk about bringing different perspectives to help understand Scientology, why it's a cult, and hopefully bring some understanding to the Scientology mindset. Because I think when you can kind of understand that mindset, it makes some of the crazy a little bit more predictable. It doesn't make it any more okay. It doesn't make it any more what would be considered normal in the normal world. But if I can bring a bit of understanding to it, then maybe there's something that we can do about it. Definitely help people from not getting caught up in it. And maybe even help some families who have people who are not just in Scientology, but other cults and controlling groups. Because one thing I've come to find, and I've learned so much from all of you, is that a cult is a cult is a cult. So they share so many similarities. Hello to everybody in the live chat. Absolutely love seeing you here. Be sure, if you've not subscribed to my channel, to hit that subscribe button. And I would love it if you like this video as well. Ola from Cuba. It is so good to see everyone here. If you were catching this on the replay, please join the conversation. Go ahead and put your questions or comments in the comments. I like to get down in there and read them and answer your questions. And so many of your questions make me think. And that is the best part of doing this, is being able to interact with people and all of you and learn from each other. Let's see. Corsets, what a beautiful plant. You have a green thumb. I do not. It is a neon pothos climbing a pole. I have no idea. It is, I call it plant. Tony has the green thumb. He is so much better at taking care of plants than I am. But it is a plant that it's probably my favorite plant. I have a lot of faux plants, but then we have some real plants thanks to Tony. And this plant was actually a gift. And I'm so glad that it's doing well, because I really do like it. So I'm glad that you like it too. We are tweaking things back there. I'm sure I'll change it around again, and maybe it'll be a different plant another time. Aloha to everybody. We are going to be chatting about Scientology, Scientology spies, Scientology beliefs, and their similarities to North Korea. I am by no means an expert on North Korea, but the more I learn about it, people, it is so similar to Scientology, especially the Sea Organization. It is crazy. It is disturbing. I almost was going to do this as a game and make you guess. Is this line out of North Korea or L. Ron Hubbard? But honestly, it was just too spooky. It was too spooky. So let's jump into this. And I think if you followed Scientology at all, you're tracking with me. And if you're not, or you're new to it, or you're new to the channel, welcome and get comfortable, because this just blows my mind when I look at these comparisons between North Korea and Scientology, and how the similarities in how they control people, the similarities with the propaganda, the similarities with the rules. I have a little bit of notes here to help keep me on track. Now, in North Korea, there's even their citizens, their control and monitoring of them includes wired microphones and wiretapping of landlines and also mobile phones. And microphones are now being used outdoors to pick up conversations. And I'm curious if anybody knows, especially at Big Blue around the buildings there in LA, which is one of the bases where Scientology, middle management and whatnot is. if they do that, because there's so much security all over the place there in Hollywood, that they got to be listening to. They have to be listening to. I'm sure that they are, because it sounds like something that they would totally, totally do. Now, in North Korea, citizens cannot freely travel around the country, let alone travel abroad. Immigration is very strictly controlled. Well, in Scientology, everyday people, like, parishioners, people who are not on staff at a Church of Scientology or not in the Sea Organizations, they can travel freely to a Church of Scientology. There is a lot of pressure on you when you are a public person in Scientology. In other words, their parishioners, they don't really refer to them as parishioners unless they're trying to paint themselves as a church. They're called the public. So people that take courses or do Scientology counseling and auditing, they can travel all over, but you get so much pressure if you're not using that time off from work or that time that you can get away to be doing Scientology services. That's why I say, sure, you can travel to a Church of Scientology. There's always some pressure, like how you can turn that into a trip for Scientology. Maybe there's some public relations work you could do for Scientology. Now, people in the Sea Organization cannot just get on a plane and go anywhere, because you're not allowed to leave the base without permission. And you are definitely not allowed to take some type of trip without some kind of approval. So you can't leave. So that is similar as well to North Korea. Now, if anybody has in the live chat, or if you're catching it on the replay in the comments, I would love to hear any correlations that you've made as well. It might be some of the ones I'm talking about, but you might have some different ones. And I would love to hear from them. I would love to hear them, because I am so here for how Scientology is like North Korea. North Korea has a dictator. Scientology has a dictator. North Korea has the RGB. What is it? The Reconnaissance General Bureau. Scientology has the Office of Special Affairs. All right. Now, also in North Korea, excuse me. So we talked about you cannot leave the country without the government's permission. North Koreans who try to leave the country illegally are caught, and they face major consequences, including torture, forced labor, and life imprisonment in a political prison camp. Now let's talk about the similarity there to Scientology. In Scientology, you are not allowed to leave. If I were in, like, when I would go to Los Angeles and do Scientology services, I was not allowed to leave unless I finished what's called a routing form that had steps on it that I needed to do to get all this approval just to go home. Just to go home. So if I were to just go, you know what, if I was there doing a service, if I was there taking a class or doing some auditing, I could not just go, you know what, I'm going to go home. I'm going to go home on Saturday. I'm going to go get on a plane and I'm just going to go. If I'm in the middle of my Scientology service, you absolutely need to have permission. Kathy makes a good point here that both dictators are also short, and that is true. Actually, that's kind of funny when you think about it. I don't know what the tie is to that, but it is kind of odd. All right. So you leave, you get punished. In North Korea, torture, forced labor, life imprisonment in a political prison camp. In Scientology, let's talk about the Sea Organization. Let's talk about the Hole, which at the International Management Base was where they kept senior executives in Scientology in a double-wide trailer, lock them in there, imprison them, deprive them of sleep and food, physically beat them, and all as punishment. This is the Church of Scientology. And earlier we're talking about North Korea and how people are punished there. And here at the Church of Scientology, very similar in how that's going down. Now, in North Korea, I learned there's this thing called kin punishment. So 3 generations, if you piss off the dictator, 3 generations of the political offender's family can be imprisoned or executed. So you do something, your family gets punished for it in North Korea. Let's talk about Scientology. In Scientology, what will happen? Let's start with if you're an everyday parishioner, if you're a public Scientologist, which I don't know why I'm thinking about this right now, probably because I'm saying public Scientologist. I don't know if you know this, but there is a term that Scientologists use for people who are new to Scientology, just being brought in for a personality test, just being brought in for a film. On Scientology Audit, Streets LA, the people that they're trying to get into that testing center, they're called raw meat. I'm not even kidding. Raw meat, raw public, and also raw meat. I've heard them. On my best day in Scientology, I never used that terminology because I thought it just was disgusting. It sounded so gross. Even saying it, raw meat. Ugh. Ew. Completely disrespectful. Now, in Scientology, if you leave or you get in some massive amount of trouble, your family who are in Scientology are also interrogated because they want to find out, did you know? What did you know? If you knew something, so let's say that I leave without authorization from the Church of Scientology in Los Angeles. And what they will immediately do is contact my family who are Scientologists or friends and start their own investigation. And if it's found that any of those people who are Scientologists knew about what I was doing or what I had planned, and they did not report it, they will be responsible and there will be punishment for them as well. So they don't even just stop with your family in Scientology. It sounds like in North Korea, it's 3 generations of your family. In Scientology, it could be your friends. And that's why there's such this snitching culture of ratting people out, of reporting on them if they do something that violates the rules in Scientology. Because if you don't, and it's found out that you knew what this person was up to, you get punished too. So everybody's just about like this reporting on each other type of atmosphere. It's insane. CC says bodies in the shop. That's right. That's also what they would refer to, or what they do refer to, people. It's a statistic in Scientology. Scientologists keep all kinds of statistics. When you work for the Church of Scientology, no matter what your job is, could be doing dishes, you have a graph that measures your production for that day and for that week. And one of those statistics in Scientology, in an organization that provides services to Scientologists, is bodies in the shop. Bodies in the shop is how many people were on service from Thursday at 2:00 to the following Thursday at 2:00 in Scientology. You can see how, with even the terminology that they use, raw meat, bodies in the shop, it's such a dehumanizing way to look at people. And I think it's because in Scientology, they don't want you to see people as people. Because if you develop empathy or compassion, you might feel bad about guilting them into coming and working on their course on Christmas when they could have been with their family. You might feel bad about encouraging them to break out with their spouse who they love dearly of 30 years because their spouse has issues with Scientology. So you cannot create that type of those connections, which is part of why it's so discouraged, especially in the Sea Organization, to have any type of real relationship or friendship. It almost always gets blown up somehow. All right, but you're tracking with this, right? This is like so crazy to me. So North Korean government, known for extreme levels of control over its citizens. The control there is so tight that they restrict freedom of speech. They monitor the activities of citizens. What you read, what you watch, it's all completely controlled. And they use a lot of propaganda to make you think that, oh, North Korea is so great because we have these things going on. And it's total propaganda. Scientology is just like that. Every international event, these big events that you've heard of, heard of. There's the March 13th event on L. Ron Hubbard's birthday, the anniversary of Dianetics, New Year's Eve, the different ideal organization openings when they have one, which is very rare, but they do those, are all filled with propaganda about Scientology and their expansion. And they shoot themselves in the foot, especially in this day and age of the internet. Because for me, that was one of the things that made me go, wait a minute. David Miscavige just said, what? He said, what? Who's supporting the Way to Happiness Foundation? At that time, I remember he was saying that it was Kimora Lee Simmons. And she had a reality show out that I watched, so I knew who that was. And I'm like, I looked into it. It was not hard to find out that that was not the case. It was not the case at all. And I did a live earlier today with my sister, Lana, which I really enjoyed doing. And she talks about how one thing that really opened her eyes was hearing at those same international events complete lies about Scientology that she knew for a fact were not true, mainly around what their accomplishments are. Corsets and curls, very true. They also inflate their statistics. Absolutely. Absolutely, they do. Because if you don't have good statistics, if your statistics are down, you get in trouble and there's punishment. You're deprived of sleep. You're deprived of food on a good week. So when there's this added stress of you're not producing and you're not doing what you should be doing, it gets worse. The control gets tightened even more. It is in the Sea Organization, it is not uncommon. I know when she was in Florida training to work here in the Twin Cities for the Church of Scientology, she was in Florida doing a training program. And when she would call, I could tell that somebody else was on the phone. It's like so obvious because she changes the way she speaks, which I'm glad that she did, because that was usually my cue. Oh, somebody's there or somebody's listening. And then I knew how to play it, because at that time I was still trying to play along and not let people in Scientology know that myself and 3 generations of my family were leaving, because I didn't want them to ship my daughter off anywhere before I had a chance to get her out of there. And if you get a chance and you haven't seen her story on my channel, check out the videos. She's done 2 so far, and she does a great job sharing her story. The Pentecostal bubble, talking about North Korea. Look up books from author. Oh, yes. Yeonmi Park. I never know how to say her name. I am dying to read her book. I saw an interview with her, a couple of them, which in part is what kind of inspired this for me. That's right. And I remember now that I meant to get her book. I wonder if it's on Audible. I like to do books on Audible because then I can still be doing other things, which is why I love podcasts and YouTube. If I'm doing something, I usually got an earbud in my ear and I'm listening to a book or a podcast. But I want to find those. I want to find her books. I didn't know she wrote more than one. I see you wrote books, plural there. But I definitely want to learn more about that. But everything she said about the control. And the other thing in North Korea is the Kim family, they're surrounded. It's like this whole personality cult. The dictator, he's portrayed as almost godlike. And I believe his father was portrayed that way too. These godlike figures, and their images are all over the place. And their quotes from them are all over the place as well. And it's like this one source of information. And in Scientology, well, L. Ron Hubbard, his picture is all over the place and it's just him. David Miscavige in recent years has tried to position himself as the supreme leader of Scientology. And so you see, you look on their websites and stuff, you see him on there more, which was something that was never done before. It was just L. Ron Hubbard. And now it's more David Miscavige. But very, very similar that way with North Korea in how they're revered. And my gosh, one of my pet peeves in Scientology was every darn end of the day in the course room when you're ending course and at all these events, it's hip hip hooray for L. Ron Hubbard. Hip hip hooray. just crazy making. And that reminded me when I was watching and hearing more about North Korea. I'm like, wow, it's like that. It's like that too. You don't have a choice. Trust me, if you are especially a Sea Organization member and you are sitting on your butt when everybody else is standing up and hip hip hurraying for L. Ron Hubbard or for Supreme Leader David Miscavige, there will be trouble. There will be trouble. There will be blood. Somebody is definitely going to come down on you about that, even if you're a public person, because they're going to look at that and be like, what's wrong with you? Why are you not celebrating dear leader? Why are you not on your feet praising dear leader? Thank you so much for subscribing, the Pentecostal Bubble. Thank you. Definitely subscribe if you haven't. And I would love it if you hit the like button if you're liking this as well. I'm working really hard on getting the 10,000 subscribers because my Tony, and if you don't know, he's my partner. I want him to come on and share. He's got a really interesting perspective about me and my family because he's never been in Scientology. But he says he'll come do that when we have like 10,000 subscribers, and we're getting there. And I cannot tell you how much I appreciate everybody's help, especially with helping me to remember to tell people to like and subscribe. Truly, truly appreciate it. So North Korea, yes, they're all about this godlike idea with their leaders, and Scientology, same thing. David Miscavige, L. Ron Hubbard. In every church of Scientology, there is an office for L. Ron Hubbard for when he comes back, and it is stocked up. I remember, I don't know if they still do this, but they used to actually keep his cigarettes that he would smoke in there as well. There'd be a pack of cigarettes. No one can go into L. Ron Hubbard's office. It's just something you would look at. There's a rope across or something, as if it were like a museum or something. And there would be, in fact, I saw his office when I did a tour of St. Hill when I was in England. And this is when I was still in Scientology. And they had so much of his original belongings and things still there. But it is interesting, and it's unnerving, and which makes me wonder. I wonder how, people who come from, places like North Korea, other places where there's dictators, how they would handle being introduced to Scientology, mainly the culture. I'm not even talking beliefs. I'm talking the culture in Scientology of, Supreme Leader, yay, hip, hip, hooray, all of that stuff. If it would be triggering, in terms of the control that they felt in their own country. I can't imagine them escaping that just to then go into Scientology. And that's something that has bothered me quite a bit about the way that, especially in the Sea Organization, will recruit people from China and other countries where, how do I say this? It's like they manipulate, like they know that they might be easier because they're so indoctrinated in basically like their home cult in a way that level of control won't seem so weird to them. It won't seem so odd to them. Whereas you take somebody who's just always been, born free and believes in human rights, and it might be a little more difficult. At least it might take a little bit more time. In another video, I'll get into the whole mudslide of Scientology, think and acceptance of so many of these things that you find out and you're like, oh my gosh, that's horrible. But your reaction gets less and less because you become desensitized to it and convinced that what you're seeing is not actually happening. You might think you're seeing people scream at people and throw things and put tables in front of doors to block them so the public can't leave without donating money first. You might think you're seeing that, but that's not actually what you're seeing. That's usually the tactic and the type of handling about it. In North Korea, they're limited. They can't just go on the internet and be like, oh, let's Google this or that. It's the propaganda that they need to follow. In Scientology, it's the same way. Not even if you're a Sea Organization member or a staff member, even as a public Scientologist, someone who does not work for them, you cannot be going around on the internet or on television watching the South Park episode about Xenu, or reading, Rolling Stone magazine, an article about Scientology, or the New York Times or the New Yorker or anything, the Tampa Bay Times. I mean, pick your poison, right? Watching Scientology aftermath on television. I mean, there's been so many more shows and documentaries that have been out. You can't do that. And if you do, you get in huge trouble for it. So it's that very similar thing in North Korea where you can't look and you can't read these things and you can't have this knowledge because they want to keep you limited so they can keep you controlled, keep you uneducated so that they can keep you controlled. That is a big thing in Scientology. It's very common for kids to drop out of school to pursue more Scientology education, or mostly to work for the Church of Scientology when you can drop out at legal age, if they even make it that far. Barbie has a question here. Barbie World. Question, do you think Danny will try to drop the body? No, I don't think so. I would be surprised. I don't know. Danny Masterson. But he strikes me as somebody who might be a little bit too in love with himself. If he feels entitled enough to do what he did, and especially to do it while in the kind of organization that he's in and still do it, he's so emboldened to do that. He feels so right about doing that, that there's nothing wrong with that. And I believe that he believes that what he did wasn't wrong, that it's somehow justified in his mind. And if you don't have that guilt, why would you then want to drop the body? Now, things might get rough for him. Well, they will, let's be honest, right? It's prison. It's not going to the spa. How he reacts to that, I don't know. I have no idea. It'll be interesting to see. It'll be real interesting to see. And Kelly says, a narcissist, never. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I would be really surprised. And he probably still thinks that, maybe he has a chance on appeal of getting out and all that. So we'll see what happens when his resources are exhausted. And, based on what his experience is like in prison, I can't even imagine. He's where he needs to be. He is where he deserves to be. But I got to be honest, I don't wish violence on anybody. I don't. But you know what? He's where he is through his own actions. And so whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Brisby, yes, too much ego. I agree. Barbie, yes, is Danny an SP? Well, it depends. Is he a suppressive person the way that Scientology would define it? They say I'm a suppressive person. I don't actually know. I don't know him enough to know. His actions would definitely indicate that he doesn't have a value other human beings enough to just even respect that their bodies are their bodies, enough to not respect that there should be consent. So I don't know. I think he's definitely, my understanding of a suppressive person, he definitely seems to be acting like one and behaving like one. As far as if he is an official declared suppressive person, I have no idea at all. I had heard earlier that there was a few people were told, because some people, Scientologists, were like, what the heck? This guy does what he did, gets found guilty, is going to prison, and he's not declared a suppressive person? Meanwhile, Natalie over there, all she did was leave Scientology. I broke up with you, by the way, Scientology. Let's not forget that. And then they excommunicated me, and then they declared me a suppressive person. So, I mean, people probably aren't saying that. Like, well, how about Natalie? She got declared a suppressive person. But you get my point. It's just it's how Scientology defines someone as being a suppressive person is pretty darn twisted. And I wouldn't be surprised if they don't see him as a suppressive person, because they don't obviously accurately make that call. Look at if you follow the different SPTV creator channels, the vast majority of us have been officially declared a suppressive person by the Church of Scientology. And I mean, it's just bizarre. It's just bizarre. You're right, Barbie. It is very twisted in there. Indeed, he's twisted. From a poet, Brian says he needs to stay healthy that way. That way, he's in there for a very long time. Yes, absolutely. You know what? I even like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't understand enough the mentality behind people who do the kind of things that he did. I don't know if that can be reformed. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's at such a level that how do you, I don't know. I don't know. I'd like to think that maybe he'd be reformed, but I don't know. I don't know if that's possible. So especially with that, maybe he leaves Scientology though. Kind of forced to. Hey, I wonder if in prison, Danny Masterson will be doing Scientology extension courses. These are courses that you take, like, say, the book Dianetics, and you have a course that goes along with it where you read the book and you fill out these lessons and you mail it into the Church of Scientology. Somebody goes ahead and grades it. And then when you finish it, you're done and you move on to the next book. I wonder if Scientology will be like, well, while you're in there, you should get through studying all of your Scientology books through extension courses. I do not know. Jane Post says, just like Scientology, the Amish do not go to the police. The community decides on the punishment. They will excommunicate members who go to law enforcement to report crimes. Ooh, I did not know that. That is definitely interesting. And that is, yeah, that's similar. In Scientology, you definitely don't report another Scientologist to the authorities. And we'll take it a step further here. They will not go to the authorities when a crime is committed if they think that it somehow might be turned back on them. When I was in the Sea Organization and trying to leave, I've shared this story on earlier videos in details, but the gist is I was SA'd by someone who was not in Scientology, and the Church of Scientology still covered it up, wouldn't let me go to the police. I didn't even go to a doctor. And that's part of how I was able to leave the Sea Organization, because they cut me a deal. If I never spoke about what happened, if I told no one about it, they would let me leave the Sea Organization without having to do the whole routing form thing. I was there getting what's called a committee of evidence, which is like being court-martialed. So I think the gist of it was that, they were kicking me out of the Sea Organization, which again, I broke up with you. I showed up saying, you know what, this isn't working. I want to leave. It's so funny how they're like that. Oh, you're not leaving us. We're going to declare you a suppressive person. We're going to excommunicate you. So crazy. Yes, Barbie, it is sickening for sure. Chrissy says, people who do crimes like him, they do not see value in life. He's in a cult. He thought he was invincible, but what a D-bag. Yeah, completely. I agree 100%. And I'm so glad that he is where he is. And you know what? I hope and pray that other people in Scientology, whether you're a public person or you're a staff member or you're a Sea Organization member, and you did something similar to another human being, I hope you are shaken in your Sea Org issued shoes right now. Because your time will come. These things come out. And at some point, I just hope that there are enough even Scientologists within those communities that go, well, wait a minute. I'm curious to know how many Scientologists left Scientology during the whole Danny Masterson trial. And the more they got into it, they were like, oh my God, this guy totally did it. Especially when he was found guilty. The hardcore ones, they don't believe it. They're like, well, it's a miscarriage of justice. It is because of Leah Remini. It is because of all these other things. It's so justified. And sometimes I feel like the people in Scientology who justify it the most, who feel the need to get a hold of other Scientologists to make sure they understand that this is not the case. Here's what's really happening. Here's what's really happening. And the church has this under control. Sometimes I think they're the ones that are the closest to leaving. Because one, if they feel the need to defend it, to defend the actions of a Scientologist or Scientology, that means they know about it. That means they know what that person did or is accused of doing. And at what point do you not go, "Oh my gosh, why do we have so many criminals in Scientology? Why is there so much violence in the Sea Organization? Why do people come for courses in self-betterment and then we lock them in rooms and put tables in front of the door so they can't leave till they pay for something, till they donate?" That happened in Minneapolis. That was the last time I went to an event at the Church of Scientology. I was like, and even at that point, I wasn't ready to leave yet. I was wanting to leave. I can't remember if that was before or after I made my decision to leave. I think I did, but I needed to still toe the line for the 2 years it took me to work with my family to get to the point where they were going to leave and then get my daughter out. All right. Brisby, be afraid. Yeah, they should. They should be wondering if anyone's going to find out. I hope that they feel that way. Chrissy, so very sorry you were dismissed. You're a survivor. Thank you. I appreciate that. I did not tell anyone what happened for, I think it was 20 years. Even my mom didn't know. Thankfully, when we were leaving Scientology, I told her. And she told me that if I had told her earlier that she would have left then. That was just too much for her. There were so many other things too. So there were plenty of reasons to leave. Absolutely. Now, as far as this whole North Korea being like Scientology thing, I think you see the correlation there. And I think sometimes about the people in North Korea and what they're experiencing, the lack of food, the control, the fear, things that they must be going through. And it's the same way that I think about mainly Sea Organization members in Scientology, because they're the ones that really, it's so much harder to get away. Everything is tenfold. The pressure, everything is it's so much more intense. Whereas, the more you go down in a Scientology organization, there's still abuse and it is still intense. Don't get me wrong. That tells you how bad it is, how much worse it gets as you go up, as you go higher in the organization. Cece says, Natalie, I left Hollywood May 31st, 2007. It was squishing me mentally and physically. I believe it. I absolutely believe it. I knew Cece when I was in the Sea Organization and her husband at the time. I get it. That mental pressure, that's very real. Sue says, how many Sea Org staff in public are in the Minnesota org at this time, if you know? You know what? I don't know the exact numbers, but I do know that they're way less than when I was there, because I've talked to people who've been under the radar or who have outright left and have shared that it's empty. There's not a lot happening there. It's very hard for them to get large groups of people to show up. There was this incident at the Church of Scientology in St. Paul, and it was within the last 2 years. Any of you true crime internet detectives out there, hear me out here. Or maybe you know of one who can dig into this, because I never understood what happened fully or what the truth was. And we all know that Scientology covers stuff up. But in St. Paul at the Church of Scientology, and I think it happened within the last few years, it was definitely prior to the pandemic. So maybe it could have been 3 to 5 years. Within the last 3 to 5 years, I saw a story in the newspaper that shared that a Scientologist left a parking garage to go into the Church of Scientology, and at some point was confronted and someone was attempting to mug him, and he was yelling and there was a struggle, and apparently this struggle went on for a little while, and the yelling, and staff members from the Church of Scientology in St. Paul came, and the guy who was doing the mugging then died. So what happened? I mean, sure, they tried to restrain him probably, right? Pull the guy off, call the police. But the perpetrator actually passed away. And it was weird to me that there wasn't more follow-up or more looking into that. Like, that doesn't just seem like a whole explanation here. How many people came in? What did they physically do to him? And I by no means support people committing criminal acts and trying to mug someone else, but I also don't think that it means that should be unalived for it. Don't know the whole story, but I'm kind of like sidebar here. If you know, I know there's people who are really good on the internet of digging into these things. Me, not so much. I kind of get distracted. I'll be looking up something, be like, oh, squirrel. Um, I think it's something somebody should look into and be like, what happened with that? And why wasn't there more of an investigation? It happened in St. Paul, Barbie, in St. Paul. So it's the Church of Scientology in Minnesota, which is located in St. Paul. And it was within the last 3 to 5 years. And that's why I know about it. But if anybody finds out, I would love to hear about that. And definitely, I think there's something there. I do. Cece says, and even homeless since I'm so much better off mentally. Yes, I get it. Being out of Scientology, especially the Sea Organization, and having some freedom will do that. I hope you're doing well. I have seen some of your camping things on social media, and I'm a glamper, but I geek out about it. I love everything. If I'm not watching YouTube videos about cults and Scientology, I am watching YouTube videos about camping and RVing. I'm next level about it. Anytime people want to talk about that, I would almost do a video just on that, just to geek out about it. And I have so many questions. Tony and I just got a travel trailer last year. And if you saw our Christmas short, where we reenacted my favorite holiday movie, Christmas Vacation, I swear, sometimes I think I got the camper just for that moment, just so I could grab that sewer hose. Yes. So, but I do it. I love it. I love not so much tent camping because my back hurts and I'm 53 years old. Even with the travel trailer, the bending over to get things like lifting up the seats and stuff, not my favorite thing. I should probably just do a little bit of exercise and get a little stronger, build up some of that endurance. Paula says these people are brilliant. They will find out for you. I don't doubt it. I've seen some of the videos of people doing this and I'm like, wow, how did you figure all that out? Like so many mysteries. Yes, the Pentecostal bubble, Merry Christmas, shitters full. Exactly. We did a short about that the other day. And like we got the travel trailer in February and I'm like, oh, guess what we're doing for Christmas? We're totally going to do this. And I can't wait to get out again. We don't have any snow right now. It was actually starting to flurry a little bit here in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. But I'm already like looking at places to go camping, and I need power though, so I can have the heat on if we go early. I like to be comfortable. I'm at that. I have spent so much of my life being physically uncomfortable that if I can help it, I'm going to be comfortable, which is why I like glamping. Learning the plumbing in these rigs has been interesting. Yes, CC, for sure. That is like a whole thing in and of itself. Brisby says, I have squirrels to distract you. All right. Now, I want to hear what you guys think about this. The correlation between Scientology, especially the Sea Organization, and North Korea. David Miscavige and the North Korean dictator. The similarities, the propaganda. I want to know what you think about it. If you're catching this on the replay, make sure you put your thoughts in the comments as well. Oh, Cece says, I'm thinking of parking by the HI for a few days to support William. So you're still in Los Angeles then. The HI is a building. Gosh, I forgot what that stands for. HI. What is the HI building? Is it Hollywood and is it like on the corner of Hollywood and Ivars, and that's why they call it the HI building? I forget, but somebody will know. I know Cece will know for sure. But see, I totally got distracted. Brainwashed and fearful. Yes, Barbie, absolutely. But okay, so I want to hear about this because I'm like obsessed with this right now. This whole putting these two things together, and I want to learn more about the Amish too. Oh, the Hollywood Inn. That's right, Cece. Yes, thank you so much. If you have not subscribed to the channel, make sure people that you do. And I would love it if you would like this video as well. Shelley said combination of Hitler and Rocket Man from North Korea. Totally. David Miscavige. Gosh, I just sometimes, that reminds me, there's something I need to share with you guys, but I'm going to see, I mentioned this in an earlier video. I was just thinking because David Miscavige reminded me of that when my sister and I were in the cult. Well, I was in the cult. She actually wasn't, but she was just kind of like being cool about it because she didn't want us to cut her off and cause trouble. My sister and I wrote this song to raise money for the Ideal Organization building. And so we basically put out a single and David Miscavige bought it. And it was horrible. It was about the building in Scientology. I am going to play it for you. I'm working up I got to figure out if I want to do that, just do it solo or do a fun video about it with Aaron. But it's coming. It is coming. I listened to it again today and the uncomfortableness from the inside that just permeated my body was next level. I think it's hilarious. You guys might not even think it's funny. I think it's so funny. And I think what's so cringe about it is even when I did it, I knew it was cringe. We kind of did it as a joke. Now, remember, I was still very much in Scientology then, but I thought, well, let's just for fun, let's write this song and see about it. And I thought it would be more kind of funny. And it is funny because it's so bad. But they liked it and sold copies of it to raise money for the building. Brisby says all these leaders are vertically challenged. That is an interesting point. Gems of SPTV. Hi, I'm in Minnesota too and already found some info for you. Yes, you can email me. You can email me at natalie@tonkatalk.com. Tonka Talk is a podcast and another YouTube channel that I have where we share the ways people create community and connection, mainly in the area that I live in, but you can watch from anywhere because a lot of the stories we share, there's always something you can walk away with it. And it's my way of celebrating the community and connection that I was denied for so long in Scientology, that I saw broken up so many times and destroyed, that when I started doing this other podcast and we have a website and everything, we share the ways people create community and connection. It just so inspires me because there's so many people who are doing it and who are doing cool things in communities all over the place. I think that would be my dream job. If I could just travel around the country, maybe a little bit around the world, but I don't want to be too far from my grandkids, so country, and just share the ways people create community and connection and the way that they find it and the things they do to get there. I would love that. I would love that. I need to put that on my wish list of things that I would like to do. I'm doing it locally, but I would love to do it on a bigger scale. Shelley says those propaganda paintings of North Korea, I'm shocked DM doesn't have brass statues of himself at every org. Give it time. You know, that brass, I'm assuming it's brass lion at the blue buildings on L. Ron Hubbard Way. Next thing you know, we're going to turn around and it's just going to be a bronze statue of David Miscavige standing there. Probably not in the nude, probably in one of his little boy suits, but just standing there. I wonder what they're going to do with the lion. But yeah, I know it's coming. It's totally coming because there was a time in Scientology where it was only L. Ron Hubbard's photo you would see. It was very focused, so much more just on L. Ron Hubbard. And now David Miscavige has been elevated. It's the only elevation he gets, right? He has been elevated to this position of being almost like this godlike entity. And the way that people revere him is super, 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 super culty. The new age of statuary, you'll have to salute. Brisby, that's funny. Shelley says DM fountain. You know it's coming. You know it's coming. It's absolutely coming. All right. Here's the deal. Again, I want to hear what your thoughts are about this. Share it in the comments. I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to be doing, I'm going to do a live stream with Aaron tomorrow. And I have some thoughts. There's some things that are easier for me, I think, to process and work through with another ex-Scientologist and all of you as well. I love seeing those different perspectives, and especially from people never in Scientology, because you just have a way of seeing it as it is. I'm still working through a lot of things. There's all the time, there are things that I'm like, oh my gosh, that really was not okay. That really was a cult thing. And your questions and your comments make me think about it. And I truly, truly appreciate it. So be sure to subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And if you like this video, I would absolutely love that. I will see you tomorrow, probably later in the day, in the evening is when we'll be doing our live, and we'll stream it on Growing Up in Scientology and right here on Scientology Life After a Cult. So have a great night, and remember, hip hip hooray! It's a cult-free day. I will talk to you guys later.